So about 15 minutes ago, a UPS van turned up outside my house and it delivered these glorious things. These are the proof prints for this Crown Jewel of Lunar Tarsh, my latest book with the contribution and help of so many people. Mark Galeotti, Nick Brooke for his amazing layout, Mike O'Connor for his beautiful artwork. Oh, the list goes on. So many people. In fact, if you buy the book, you get a nice section here telling you all the wonderful people involved in this project and how much work they've done, pinpointing exactly what they have done as well. Okay, so these books come in two versions. We have the high quality print and we have the standard quality print. But as you can see, the covers have both come out really crisp. Flick the product over and you get a copy of the map of Furthest on the back page. This was a tradition that we started with the unspoken word, and me and Nick felt it was something that needed to continue within our products. Right, okay, so I'm going to have a quick flick through the book itself so you can see some of the gorgeous art, and I'll explain some of the sections. So, a quick overview of the city of Furthest, just laying it out, followed by a table of contents, of course. A section on the walls and gates of Furthest with some contribution and help from Martin Helsden. Oh, look, another map, a bigger map. And you can get even bigger maps on my Redbubble site. You have an overview. So this is one of the sections that is going to be quite interesting to people. So what we did was we've done it so that as you explore the city, you can actually see the map sections showing the route through the city. So here we have the Barbarian's Gate, going through the edges of the South Market, past the Grand Hospital, the Royal Mint, of course, Hall of Speakers, the Hall of the First Blood, and so on and so forth. You can see all these locations. There's a full description of each location, giving plot hooks, major personalities connected to it, histories, all sorts of interesting factors. You can see information on the Fargentine Way. Again, some nice artwork there. We've done sections overviewing sort of the management of the city. So, for example, that's the managing of markets. We have the interrelationships between the cults of Enelda and Honeal. Again, here we have the Fargentine Way running all the way from the Fargentines Arch straight up to the palace gates. You have, again, huge amounts of detail on the Hall of Dominion, which is also talks about things like the politics and the functioning of the city, the bureaucracy. Your Marleo Temple, for all you little sun worshippers out there. We have the outside of the city, not just the interior. So we have things like the Temple Fields, the King's Fields. These are the people that have chosen to live outside the city and provide for the city. Again, huge amount of detail on the Cult of Seven Mortars with a beautiful piece of Dario artwork, which some of you might recognise, but we felt it needed replacing here as well. This is some of Tricia's glorious artwork. This is a beautiful piece that she gifted us. Sections on the impact of the Dragon Rise, details of the Emperor's Temple, and how the cult of Yelm Imperiator and the cult of the Red Emperor work in conjunction. Section on transport in Furthest itself. Eateries and taverns in great detail. Did you know there are so many ways to eat in Furthest? You can go to a cup house where you can just stand around on the street and drink until you fall over, right through to the fantastic inns. We have a section on the Port of Furthest with details of the port authorities, the Temple of Oslira, the river town itself, docks, warehouses, you name it, it's covered. There are some areas which we are not supposed to be showing to people because no, there is not really a secret hideout to Lambrel somewhere in the area, nor is there actually a Temple of Urnmel. There's a section on slavery in Furthest. It's trying to be sympathetic and it's intentionally keys into the information given in RuneQuest Weapons and Equipment by Chaosium. The Great Way is, again, details of this run from the Holy Key right through the centre of the town. A bit more art. Of course, you can go and visit the lavish and beautiful Moonrock Cafe. Hyalor's Fields, this includes the Hippodrome and Hyalor's Field, and some references to old unspoken word products hidden in there, a little Wesley Quadros section. We're talking about the inns before. We have things like the Ruby Cup Inn, which is a very lavish place. The Golden Gauls. This is quite interesting. This is an approach to how the cult of Ezrealia funds the local Barbista Gore cult. Okay. Of course, Furthest is renowned for its entertainments, and one of the great entertainments is the Grand Theatre, which was of course established by Fargenties when he became a chief sponsor of the Furthest Dramatic reenactors. Another popular sport would be wrong, religion, religious function is here, and you can see this section on the Holy Gladiators, which includes this Osborne book style preview of the various gladiatorial styles found in the city. Of course, the gladiatorial arena is called the Moiracium, which is a large area of its own, which includes the Colosseum itself, the gladiatorial schools, the Temple of Honil, again in lavish detail, songs in relation to Honil, and a beautiful piece by Philip there of Honil. Going through to sections on the Northern Quarter, details on the notes on the Provincial University, Hall of Scribes, again some beautiful Patricia artwork here. Okay, so again details of this quarter. Cults of Valeria, the Temple of Valeria. One of the interesting things was that when I originally spoke to Greg many years ago about the nature of the Furthest, he was very insistent about the location of the Temple of Valeria being on Love Lane. Okay, we have a beautiful Tricia piece of image about Valeria, the goddess there. Okay, so going through to the Western Quarters, our take on Humact cult in the area. Section on the different houses, showing which houses relate to where on the maps, so you have a good idea of what those houses are, how people live in them. A typical block. Now this is intended, this is quite interesting, this is sort of intended to, if you have the PDF, you can print this off and use this as the place where your players, live and where they've moved into, to give them a city base, for want of it. I'm going to the craft sections, a lot of details about the nature of guilds in the area and the impact of that. We're going to the inns and taverns, quite interesting. Some of these places you have to remember that Beatbot Aelwyn has drank in these very taverns. The Acropolis itself, which is the heart of the city, the royal palace, this vast palace built to honour emperors and heroes and superheroes, because again, Jariel has been toasted here. Going on to information. So each of these purple boxes is about the impact of the dragon rise upon the community. Again, we talk about nobility in the city, the dream gardens of the king himself. Section on the provincial army, again some thank you to Martin on that section, and of course the prisons and the nature of crime in Furthest. Go outside the city, which is an individual section. An interesting little thing about the worship of Orlanth in the area, and why the plough house would be important to Orlanth in that area. We also have the infamous First Field and Manse of Teeth. Again, this was a strange location that Greg talked to me about many years ago and featured in our stories and information in UW1, Tarsh in Flames, which goes back to, I think, the year 2000. Nice little picture of one of the creatures that sort of dwells in the Barbista Gore Temple. And most important of all, we can't forget the sewers of Furthest, a very large and comprehensive article of how not to get eaten in the sewers that lie beneath Furthest. Some brilliant Michael Connor art. This is actually one of my favourite pieces, and I am selling some products on the Redbubble site. These on. So we move on to Tarsh. A lot of people think it's just a book about Furthest. Well, that was 75 pages about Furthest, which I think is a huge amount of information for anybody. But we do cover Tarsh as well. So you've got a nice map of Tarsh, again available on the Redbubble site. We talk about the sort of area itself, the nature of the actual landscape that you see around you. We go into detail about the bastions of civilization, the details of the cities and villages of the area. I haven't gone into huge depth. There are so many villages and cities that are marked on the maps that, of villages in particular, it would be difficult to sort of give all of them justice. So I chose some that I thought were more interesting and a few homages to things that my friends might like. Some of these may be developed further in later products. Is one of the intentions. Coppertown, for example, has already got a draft written. I'm working on some information on Tolfort and Bjorn's Landing, particularly intrigues me. I'll show you a picture of why that intrigues me later on. Going through, so saying you've got detail on each city, and then we go into the rural village life, where we have various small communities. There are so many villages on the map that you could quickly grab one of these and turn it into your village. A little one for my friends who know Castle Starlick well is Steel Crag there. And the references to the Eternal Steel. An homage there to Mark Galeotti's, one of his early Tales of the Reaching Moon articles. Section about the mythological landscape of the area. Important sites where gods have walked and heroes have stood. Moving through into the lands beyond Tarsh. Now, one of the things I want to point out is there is a definite lunar Tarsh bias to some of this writing. So you may disagree with the attitudes of the narrator, of the writer in this situation, but the intention is to give that feeling of this is what your people feel like. Were I to write the Grayslands from a grazer's point of view, it would be a totally different situation. So we cover the Grayslands, we cover the exiles and everything around the base of Carafin. Again, details of the area, an overview of the people. Some of this stuff is connected directly to Chris Gidlow's work on Tarsh War. Carry on flicking through. Details on Hollay, Balazar, the Far Place. We have a section on clans and districts. So one of the things that is important about Tarsh is there are no tribes per se. There's a slight rule break in that, but per se. So this is an overview of how clans work in the area. More information about the impact of the Windstop and the Great Winter and the Dragon Rise. We look at sort of the areas of the clan, so you've got a nice map demonstrating what areas there are with a detail on each of them. So for example, we have kept important facts in there like the presence of the Hengedart clan, which later on goes to sort of be involved in the Argrath cycle. We also have sort of details on why all this is quite complex and confusing. Sections on the nobility and noble families of Tarsh. The major players. So this basically covers each of the major characters in the area. So we've got Faza Widered, Fargentine, I think Ferandros was beforehand. The Fazasons of Anjou and Amstad. We've got details on major characters within the city itself you may not have heard of but are important in the city. You will see a few of these little beasties flying around, again one of our little fancies. Details on the cults of Oslera and the priestesses, the high priestess of Honiel. Again, loads and loads of information in there. We also have the the bad guys. We have a Michael O'Brien Jaxarte in Furthest story. Now this was originally published in the Unspoken Word 1, and we have slightly brought it up to some tweaks in there to make it sort of fit with some of the things that are happening in Tarsh as it is now. Again, some bats, a history of Tarsh in 16 Kings. We have some cults. These include things like Acela and Torquil, which I think you will see in some of the old Coming Storm example. We've got details of Aaron the Pauper. We've got a few of our own cults, the nature of the cults of the Hydra. Some great mic artwork here. Just glittered all the way through. Beautiful stuff. Tarsh Basteri. Okay, so this has a variety of weird and strange creatures that can be found in Tarsh. Things that don't really live beneath the city, honestly. An image of the Hydra of Dragon Prass, one of the great monsters, the great terrors. This is a section of short selection of story seeds. We then have a scenario, which I'll rush through quite quickly. I won't go into too much detail on that. And then finally, we have a little advert for Citizens of Furthest, which we've actually gone into some detail as to how you can take Chris Gidlow's Citizens of the Lunar Empire book and bring it into being an area in the city of Furthest, so that you don't have to travel all the way to Glamour. There's a gazetteer index at the back of the book, which shows you the divisions of the city and a key to all the personalities in the book and where to locate them. Finally, a few little sections. So there's a little bit about our printed maps. Of course, the Rough Guide to Glamour, the Black Spear and the Crimson King, which are all sort of Nick Brooke's work, which has been an amazing contribution to this project. And that is that. Quality-wise, there are differences, I think, really. The premium book is absolutely beautiful. Cover-wise, no difference at all. The standard book is lovely. It really is lovely. But as always with this, you know, it doesn't quite have that crispness that the premium book does. It's always a slightly more pinkish in colour than the vibrant reds that we adore in the Empire. As you can see, a very slight difference, which won't appear on camera. But yeah, I am really, really pleased with this. I think the product's looking really good. I can't wait for people to start actually having this in their hands. I can't wait for people to start building up, you know, lunar characters rather than just playing those stick-picking or anti-scum that live in the south. And I hope you'll enjoy it. Thank you very much. Bye.